4 days after torrential rains triggered deadly floods in western Germany, survivors have now turned their focus toward the daunting task of rebuilding. But with emergency services still busy looking for bodies and securing vital infrastructure, many residents are left to seek help from volunteers or go it alone.
Sun, sausages and beer. It looks like a village fete, but it's not what it seems. This is just a break time for the volunteers organising an arduous relief effort now that the floodwater has subsided.
Solidarity is the one thing on everyone's minds here right now, and getting people who have been affected by the floods back on their feet as quickly as possible. People have travelled from nearby villages and further to get here to lend a helping hand with the clear-up. Over the weekend, around 200 Cologne football fans descended on the region and have been distributed around the affected areas.
They've been helping locals by rolling up their sleeves to clear debris from homes, restaurants and the ruined beer hall. Cologne fan Marco helped organise the effort. You can't leave people on their own, you just have to help. If it had happened to me, then I'd want someone to help. So I think it's great that people are lending a hand. The generous response has stunned locals, including this hairdresser. She's had a business here for 12 years. There are so many people out there that you don't even know. I don't even know where they come from. They're out here helping to clear up. So much willingness to help. It's wonderful. Despite all the volunteers, many people have been left wondering why there hasn't been more help from the authorities. Those at the top are trying to bring order to the chaos, but it's not really working. A lot of help is coming from volunteers and residents. They're showing an awful lot of initiative, but you can't really say that people at the top are helping. With so many areas overwhelmed by the floods, rescue services say they're at breaking point.
It's
pretty difficult to get help to everyone, and we have to prioritise. If we get a report that someone's still trapped in a building, then people with water in their basements, say, end up being pushed to the back of the queue. There's much work to be done, but many volunteers say they'll stick around long after this weekend. Our boss has given us Monday and Tuesday off, so we can use the time to finish the job and support the locals. With many residents still wondering how this disaster could have happened, that help will be much appreciated.
Let's bring in our correspondent, Julia Sardelli, now. She's in Avilla. That's one of the towns worst hit by the floods. Tell us, it's been 5 days since the floodwaters inundated Avilla and the surrounding region. How are things looking on the ground there now? Any news of the dozens of people reported missing?
Well, the devastation is just astounding. The streets are filled with debris here. Here, for example, we have this massive pile of books. This used to be an antiquities store, and now everything is completely destroyed. The ground floors of homes have been completely filled with water and mud, so residents have been trying to clean everything up. They have put all their furniture on the streets, and the problem here is that the streets are quite small, so it is difficult, for example, for big trucks or excavators to come in and take all these things out and bring them to the dump. So it is going to take a few days for the town to be cleaned up. But it's not just the loss of objects, of things, it is also the loss of lives. The number of the dead keeps rising, up to 116 people dead in only this region. And the authorities expect more casualties to emerge.
Now, Chancellor Angela Merkel came to the region there on Sunday. She visited and talked to residents. Tell us a bit more about what she said on that visit.
Yeah, well, the Chancellor took stock of the devastation that occurred in this region. She said the German language doesn't have any words that are able to describe the devastation. She also said that she is very much aware that it is going to take a long time for the towns to be cleaned up and rebuilt, and she promised the population that the government is going to be there in the long term to try to support them. She thanked the rescue crews and the many many volunteers who came and showed solidarity with the local residents and are helping with the cleanup.
Julia, thank you so much. That was Julia Sardelli there in Avilla. Well, many people are wondering how this could have happened, that people in the region who were so badly affected were not warned. Well, let's talk now to Kai Schwerter about that. He's from the German Research Center for Geosciences in Potsdam. He specializes in flood risk and forecasting. Dr. Schwerter, thanks for being with us. Europe has a sophisticated flood warning system in place. You know all about that, yet these floods seem to have taken people completely by surprise. What happened?
Good morning, first of all. Yeah, the flood warning actually is a very difficult undertaking because it is based on information that is about the future, and forecasts about the future are always difficult to make, particularly in the case of flash flood events, as we have seen in Avilla and other regions last week, because these flood events have a really rapid onset, and you don't have much time actually to provide your information before the flood already occurs to the people. You have technical issues to solve to give a good forecast about the location where it is going to happen. You have to give information to the people on the ground. You have to reach these people. And this is always talked about, that is the last critical mile. So you have to reach the people, you have to disseminate your information, and you often don't have a confirmation that the information has been received. And
okay, well, that's all general information, and that's useful. And I wanted to ask you specifically about what happened in this case, because a British researcher, Hannah Cloak, you might know her, she worked on Europe's flood warning system. She alleges that the system in this case did work. She says that German authorities, however, even though they were given precise warnings, failed to act. What can you tell us about that?
Well, I don't have actually the complete information from the situation on the ground. I know that the EFA system did work very well, also that the German Weather Service had provided information that something is going to happen beforehand. But as I just wanted to say, it is difficult to convey this information to the people, and also to convey information to the people what they need to do in these cases. Often people have some experience with flooding, but this has not been the same type of flooding or the same severity of flooding as it happened right now. So maybe they might have underestimated what is going to happen. And this is something that is very, very difficult to control, and very, very difficult to provide the information what the people actually need to do in such cases.
Do you have any advice on how catastrophes like this could be avoided?
I think, first of all, we really need to take every flood event like this to really learn from that, not only in this region, but also in other regions. So I think everyone now has to ask himself the question, okay, what would have happened in my place if such a rainfall would have fallen in such a short time amount? And with this information, you can then try to find out ways what would be the impacts of flooding in your region. You can then decide what could be measures to counteract, and there you have different possibilities. You can try to control the hazard, but in cases of the event that we have seen last week, this is something that is purely beyond control of technical measures. So you also need to think about, how can I reduce my exposure to flooding? How can I reduce my vulnerability to flooding? So what can I do to avoid any impacts of flooding if technical control measures do not work anymore?
Dr. Schwerter, thank you very much for talking with us. That was Kai Schwerter from the German Research Center for Geosciences in Potsdam.
Thank you very much.